I mentioned before, we have a number of people who have registered, over 60 people. So we're going to just get started. Instead of doing personal introductions, what I'd like to do is have you all put your name and all your contact information in the chat. If you're interested in networking with one another, well, I encourage that always. But I would like to introduce myself again. I'm Carla Harris with the People Institute. And then Desiree, if you can come on camera, please. I'd like to introduce Desiree Zambrano. She is our office administrator, and she will be handling the chat. She'll be dropping in links. If you have any technical difficulties, you just send her a message on chat, and she will make sure that she gets those things handled for you. So hey DJ, how are you? So some of you I know because I've been doing these Leaders Labs for a long time. And I want to just make sure that we are, so let's start off the right way. If you have attended a Leaders Lab in the past, please let us know in the chat. So if you have attended, let us know a yes in the chat. I love it when people come back. So if you've attended in the past, yes, good, yes, wonderful, wonderful. No, so we do have some first timers. Very good, very good. Thank you so much. Again, if you want to network, I would love it for you to put your information in the chat. And then that way, if you're able to communicate. So let us know in the chat your name, where you're from, what agency or what company you're dialing in from. And we're going to just go ahead on and get started. So again, if you are on camera, we would love to see you. All right, so DISC in leadership. Okay, so again, we talked about networking in the chat, so please do that. I really appreciate it. We will obviously have people who will be late, so don't worry, we're just going to keep going. So who are we? Who's the People Institute? So our organization is a boutique corporate training firm, and we focus our delivery, our training with a human approach. We look at everything from a human perspective because businesses cannot be in existence without people. And human resources is our greatest resource as it relates to running our businesses, running our departments, running our agencies. And that's why we focus on the human aspect of business. Our training programs are designed to empower individuals and organizations to thrive in today's rapidly evolving landscape. And we are moving at the speed of light in business. AI is here to stay, and it's forcing us to move forward very, very quickly. You will see there that our core values are based in authenticity, honor, and faith. I tell people that we are not a faith-based organization. We are an organization based on faith. And today we're really going to hone in on that authenticity because communication is all about authenticity. So in a nutshell, that's who we are. Our philosophy is that strong companies have strong leaders at every level. And that really begins and ends with our people. So I would ask you to ask yourself, if you are not there in the office and things are not running well, ask yourself, how much have you trained your people? How much have you delegated to your people? How much have you mentored your people? And how have you shown your trust of your people? So the goal for any organization is that when you, the leader, leaves, that there is not one hiccup within the organization while you're gone. So, and you can only do that when you train them, when you delegate and give and empower them to make decisions, you mentor them, and all of those things show that you trust them. All right, so we're at Leaders Lab. We're April 26th. Today is a special edition. Normally our Leaders Labs are bi-monthly, so we would have the next one in May, and you'll see the list here. Desiree will drop in the chat the list if you want to go in, take a look, and you can register for the rest of the ones for the remaining of this year. And then our next one coming up is May 31st, and it's around leading change effectively. So if you have not been under a rock in 2024, you know that change is the one constant. And we are absolutely all about developing leaders to manage change. But we'll make sure you also get those links in at the end. And we're also giving away stuff. So if you are here, you have to stay to the end. You have an opportunity to receive a DISC assessment and a 30-minute debrief with me. And we will do that at the end. And also for your organization, we have a lunch and learn that we are giving away. So if you are here in South Florida, in the Tri-County area, then we will do that lunch and learn in person. If you are not here, we will do that lunch and learn virtually, and we will set that up and make sure that you're all taken care of. All right. So usually at our for our leaders labs, we have two people in the room, two types of people in the room. The first person is that person today who wants to identify what type of communicator they are. And then the other is the company leader who needs to or who wants to increase productivity by improving communication between their team members. So in the chat, can you let us know which one you are today? Are you here wanting to know what type of communicator you are? Or are you a leader who really needs to solidify the communication with your teams or your teammates so that they can increase productivity? So tell us in the chat which type of person you represent. Let's see, who do we have? One, okay. So you're here, you want to know what type of communicator you are. Very good. Primarily two, but both, absolutely. Okay, we love it. Type of communicator, both, wonderful. All right, so we're going to talk about that. You are a leader, absolutely, both. Okay, communication, love it, love it, love it. So today we're going to get into what that looks like, right? What it looks like to be a communicator. So when we talk about it, let's see, there we go. So today we're going to talk primarily about three areas. How your communication style impacts productivity. We're going to talk about the strengths of each of the four communication styles that we're representing today, and then learn how to improve that communication. And we're going to have that as an open discussion. So I really hope that you're going to participate with us. All right, it all begins with perspective. So I teach a lot of communication and leadership classes, and my foundation is that everything begins with perspective. And when we learn to appreciate the perspectives of other people, it really opens up a whole level of possibilities and opportunities. So let's take a look. So in the chat, I want to you to tell us what you see. So take a look at this picture and tell me what you see. So let's see. Tell me what you see. And tell me, do you see a mermaid? Kathy, I see you're talking there. A man with a pointy nose. Okay. We see a mermaid, a man and a mermaid, a face, a fish. Excellent. Anybody else? What do you see? A man with a pointy nose. A man thinking, a man with a mustache. Absolutely. A face, a fish, and a mermaid. Okay, a mustache. So you can see that just by looking at this one picture, there are many perspectives. And when we think about communication and when we think about teams that we work with or teams that we lead, each of those people bring a perspective with them to the table, right? And what influences our perspectives are all of our life's experiences. So we have to make sure that as we are engaging with people, what that looks like. Is it our only perspective that's important? Or are we really engaging and curious about what the other perspectives are to the table, that people are bringing to the table. And communication is not just at work. Communication is all about life. So what we're talking about can help you whether you are in a personal relationship, whether you are in a professional relationship, whether you are in a parent-child relationship. Communication is all about life. And I will tell you that in my age, at the glorious 50-something, communication is really important. And what's most important is learning how to do that and not be afraid to do that. Not be afraid to share your true, authentic self with whoever it is that you're communicating with. So today, though, we're going to focus on DISC: dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. Those are the 4 areas that make up DISC. So we're going to dive in deep. I have my chat open. I want to see what it is that you have to say, and let's just talk about it. And if you see yourself, I want you to put which one best represents you when we go through these 4. So ask yourself, are you driven by authority? Are you a person who loves to take control? Are you really results oriented? And are you a person who's able to be decisive when it comes to decision making? If these areas resonate with you, or if many of these areas resonate with you, then I would say that you are probably very D focused, or dominant is what the D stands for. You're right. You're direct. You're a person who knows how to make decisions. And this is the person that you want as a leader. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be a leader by title, but you tend to take on those leadership roles. You tend to move into positions of authority. And in fact, when people don't make decisions quick enough, you're ready to jump right on in there and make a decision. So if these resonate with you, let us know in the chat that you are probably a D type, and we're going to embrace you wholeheartedly. Now, when it comes to D types, generally the greatest fear that they have is being taken advantage of. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into the breakdown of the strengths and weaknesses of each of these personality types. Okay. Number 2 is I, influencer. This is a person who seeks fun. They're friendly. They're always active. They're always doing something. If you think about your office for the moment, they are the person that is always running around. They want to plan the parties. They want to celebrate the birthdays. They want to do everything to make sure that people are having a good time. They are animated. They love to hear what's happening. So that's the person that on Monday morning, the first thing they're going to ask you is, hey, how was your weekend? This is the person that is I focus. So they're seeking a friendly environment. And again, you would consider them the social butterfly within your organization. So we have a couple of I's who are there. I don't see any D's. All right. All right. So again, when we talk about the downside of an I, or the greatest fear, I don't like to call it a downside because we're such complex beings. There's no upside or downside. There are strengths, there's weaknesses. And how do we look at that? Greatest fear of an I is rejection or loss of approval. So if you think about the person that's in your office and you ask, it's time for a review time, you know that that person has some angst when it comes to getting a review because they really want to make sure that they get 5 out of 5 stars all the time. So this is that person when it comes to the social aspect of being an influencer. The third is S, or steady. S is our person who is loyal. They're very team oriented. They're easygoing. They're agreeable. They are good listeners. They're great mediators. However, they don't really like confrontation. So they're listeners, they're compassionate, and these people are really driven by a sense of security. They like things to be a certain way. They're the person that's typically going to live in a place for a long period of time. They're going to work for an organization for a longer period of time. They don't really jump from job to job because they love that security. What upsets them is a loss of security. So now when I look at some of your chat, you are absolutely more than one. So some of these, I want you to understand that no one person is only one type. Again, we're complex people and we are made up of all of these. It's just a matter of what's more predominant in our lives versus some of the other ones. And then finally, we have C. So C's are, they are logical people. They are compliant, they're conscientious, they are your detail-oriented, analytical people. They are folks who really want to make sure the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So I will tell you, I am a C, I'm a very high C, and I am also an I. So my predominants are CI. So that's a compliant, conscientious person who loves to be around people. And on the scale of DISC, they're actually opposites. So there is a great internal battle sometimes that goes with me where I love the details, but then the I comes in and says, okay, where's the party? So some of those things get in the way of the other, right? So your I's are people that you really want on your team because they're your data people. They're going to make sure that that policies are adhered to. They're going to help you write the policies. They're going to think about what's happening on the outside to that might interfere with what it is that you need to do as a team. So when you think of a person who is very logical, they're very analytical, then that person is primarily going to have C characteristics, okay? So now we've talked about D, I, S, and C. So in the chat, let's see, what do we have? We have some I's, we have a couple of S's, we have some combinations, excellent, D and C. All right, we have some C, D and C for sure. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, good. So now let's the makeup overall. So 3% of the world are D or dominant personalities. 11% make up our influencers. 17% make up our steady folks or our steadfast people. And then 69% make up our C or our very analytical people. So you can see that those who fall in that C category, your analytical, logical thinkers, are generally much of the world. And it's interesting, even here in our messages, you could probably do a quick analysis and see where the highest is of this group that's here on the Zoom call, right? Oh, so Anna says she's an I and a D. So those are you have one that's task oriented, and then you have one that's very people focused. Josefina, yes, you and I. Oh, you are I and a C. Yes, that's both. I'm an I and a C as well. So this is quite interesting to see this combination. All right. So now, how do we use this to our advantage? How do we use this to our advantage when we are looking at a team and building a team? So we're going to go into a little more detail for each of the personality types, just so you can, you might change a little bit, but I want you to see what to look out for. So when we talk about the D or dominant, right? So your D is a person who is, they are results oriented. They really, really like to win, whether it's a big win or a small win. So when you are talking or working with a D, make sure that you celebrate even the little wins, because those wins are very, very important. You have to make sure that you are inspiring them and not intimidating them, because they don't work well with intimidation. So some of the areas that you want to take a look at for their strengths: they're confident, they're driven, they're results oriented. They thrive on challenges. So if you have competitions within your organization, those competitions, people are going to thrive when they are high D, because they're results driven, right? Some of their weaknesses is that they can be impatient or argumentative. They can be a bit overpowering, especially if things aren't moving to a results finish fast enough. And then when we talk about some areas that I want you to think about, number one is, there we go. So to stay focused, they really need challenge and they need to be in control. So when you're thinking about putting your teams together, if you're analyzing your team, so you're sitting here, we're having this conversation, and you're thinking about the team that you currently work with, sort of do a mental inventory about the strengths and the key points around each of the personalities. And you will probably likely be able to identify some of the people and their personality types. Putting a team together, the strengths that you want to leverage is that they are able to motivate people to action. And that's really important. And they're also great decision makers. The downside of a D's decision making is that because they're so results driven, they may not take into account all of the things that are the result of whatever that decision is. So you'll see that when we get to the S's, a D and an S on the same team is great, because the S will balance the D. Where I want us to focus on for each of these is to think about, if you are a D, consider the people part of your business over the results, because remember, people help you get the results that you want. So keep in mind that keeping people at the forefront of your thought process, remind yourself to do that, so that people don't feel pushed aside. And then of course you want to listen to their other people's ideas, their perspectives, and what they bring to the table. So I'm going to stop here for a second, and I'm going to ask you, tell me if you're a D, does this resonate with you? So unmute yourself and let me know what you're thinking. If you're a D, does this resonate with you? If you work with a D, can you see some of these characteristics? Anybody? No one? Let's see, who are my Ds?
I'll pop in. I'm a closet D. Yeah,
okay.
and Carla, thank you for this. Thank you, because I am a disc devotee, or whatever you would call it. So and I am actually a bigger I than a D, but when I get to work, I flip and my D comes out like
Yeah.
big time. So yes, you are absolutely correct. And I hire my assistant, my partner, my person that works with me always to be on the green blue, to sort of balance out the opposite. But yes, this is all true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect. Megan, you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mainly identify with the I, but I definitely believe that I have a lot of D traits. Definitely one of my weaknesses is I can be impatient. I notice that sometimes, even just when I'm in supervision and I'm working with others on my team, to me, if it takes you like 20 minutes to get to the point, I'm looking at you like, okay, how many people got enrolled? How many?
Yes.
And I learned that, okay, Megan, you got to listen. You can't do this, you can't do that. But I learned that I can get very like, okay, tell me the results. That's what I want to hear. And sometimes people, they want to kind of tell you the full story when I just want to know what was the end result. So just by hearing you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely resonate with the D for sure.
And I would bet you that those people giving you the full story, they're either the I's or they're the C's, because they both love such detail that, and the I's are going to tell you the story. They're going to give you the embellished story. They won't give you all the details, but the C's are going to give you the details. And I'll tell you that as a C, like Anna, when I am in my CEO role, then I am absolutely, the D comes out very, very strong. But if in my normal everyday living, I'm very C driven, and I'm consciously thinking about it when I'm having these conversations, and I have to just sort of stop myself. So I get it completely. Let's see, is it Asma?
Yes.
So you put here that you're a D. Talk to me
Oh,
about.
yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, work-wise, personal life-wise, I'm a big D. And I can tell you this, it does create some issues sometimes when you come out being dominant in certain areas. But I'm very blessed to have a husband that controls that every now and then to the best of my interest, of course. Yes, I'm definitely results oriented and disliking so much barriers that can prevent me from reaching goals, either for me or for the individuals that I'm assisting. It's always the end result for me, and that's what keeps me going and motivates me every day. Actually, it's the outcome and the positive results. So yes, I'm a big D.
Excellent, excellent. So it looks like we have one more D in here, and that's Natalia. Are you with us? Is she still here? Natalia, are you here? Okay, so no camera. Does your microphone work? Can you give us a little insight on your D? What resonates with you about D type? All right, well, we'll move on. Let's move on. Okay. Oh, there is background noise. Okay, no worries, no worries. All right, so let's now take a look at I. So as an I, there's a natural ability to relate and build relationships. So if you look at the top right, it says outgoing and people focused. An I person is key. Relationships are key for I's. Being around people is really, really key. So the strength, they're friendly, talkative, adaptable, very encouraging for other people. Some areas for weaknesses might be that they have difficulty with follow through, and that's because they don't like the details, right? They want to make sure that they are having the relationship side of business, but not necessarily the detailed part of what goes along with that business, right? If you look at the last weakness, be careful to not overpromise and underdeliver. And that comes with people having those relationships and believing that there's a possibility that, oh, well, we have such good friendships, or we have such a positive engagement that they will be forgiven. So just be careful around that. A couple areas to focus on. To stay focused, I's need appreciation and they need acceptance. So make sure that when you have I's on your team, that you're sharing your appreciation, you're showing them that you appreciate what it is, and that their ideas are accepted, and that they are a part of the overall picture. Give them freedom to express themselves and be creative, and to help you think outside of the box. Some of the strengths that you want to leverage is their ability to connect with other people. So if you have a sales team, you want to make sure that your sales team, that those people are I driven, because that's where you're going to get the most out of those folks. They're also able to inspire others. Some areas to think about if you are an I: to listen more and talk less. So make sure that you're not dominating the conversation, but you're also listening to what people have to say. And then learn to focus on the deadlines and the milestones that will help you get your job done. So let's talk a little bit about those who are I's. It looks like we have quite a few in the group. So if you could just unmute yourself and tell us what part of this resonates with you. Megan, did you raise your hand? Let's see.
Yeah, I love how you say correct your blind spot, listen more. Because I'm telling you, once you just go on, I'm like, okay. So definitely something I have to work on. I agree with everything as far, especially with the acceptance and appreciation. I'm really big on that because I think that I'm naturally a people's pleaser. So I want to know what you think. I want to know that my deeds, are good. So this is like hitting it right on the head, literally.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's see. We have, is it Tejas? Is that how you pronounce it? You have here that you're an I.
And yes, I am. I am mostly the way I look at myself is I like to encourage people, even if they have an issue. I like to encourage them alone, see if they can get there on their own. Is me backing them up. So I don't usually give up on people quickly.
You say you do give up on people quickly.
I do not. I do
Oh,
not
you do
give up
not.
on people
Okay.
quickly. So I like to work with people. You get disappointed from time to time, but you always find the good people and among them as well. So that's how I
Excellent.
like to operate. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Shatara?
So I'm not an I, but as soon as this came up and we started going over it, I have an employee who's definitely an I. And one of the things that I see is like with change, sometimes it's difficult, making that transition because this person does have a problem with following through. This person is in a position where this personality is needed. Like they're the outreach person. So they're in the community, they're forming those relationships, which is very important. However, some of our programs are federal dollars. And so there's outcomes, there's reporting and other things that have to be done. There's deadlines, both internal and external deadlines. And I find that it's sometimes difficult to get that person to where they need to be, and to try to support them. And when I talk about change, it's that a lot of times what comes up is equating some things with appreciation and respect. Well, it wasn't done this way before, and I feel like this has been taken away from me, and not seeing the big picture in the organization, but just that individual focus on, well, this is how things were done, despite all the other things that need to happen as well. The funny thing is, for me, I'm finding it difficult to identify where I am because I feel like I'm more steady, as well as the C, conscientious. But a lot of times I feel like there is dominance that comes out, and I don't know if it's the environment. It almost automatically happens, even though I don't like it. I don't like to be all those things that comes with the dominance per se, but I just find it just automatically coming out, although my personality is more of I prefer steadiness. I want to know what's going on. I've had 2 main jobs all my life. And so this, that person just came to mind when you said that, and I saw so many of these things. So it's going to be interesting to really learn how to help and to work with that person and to really capitalize on their strengths.
Excellent. Well, that is a perfect segue because let's take a look at S. All right. So if you are an S, You are a person who wants to make sure that the people around you are relaxed and comfortable. Problem solving and mediating problems. So if there's any conflict that's on the horizon, you are the person to help resolve that conflict. You are able to be transparent, to be authentic. And those are some great, great characteristics. Additional strengths include reliability. S's are typically loyal, they're systematic. Weaknesses is that sometimes there can be a lack of motivation, resistance to change. They may come across as being a little bit too sensitive. And while, as I said earlier, while they are great at mediating, they are not someone who likes confrontation. So areas to think about to stay focused, they really need to be in a position where their security is not compromised. So if there's change within an organization, they don't necessarily adhere to change very well. And they too like to be appreciated, like to know that their appreciation is, that their efforts are absolutely appreciated. To leverage their strengths, they are motivating people. So they are going to be the motivators on your team. And they are also good decision makers. So unlike a D, an S is going to evaluate every aspect of that decision before the decision is made. And that's important because an S will help balance a D. Some blind spots to think about: learn to accept change. So be a little bit more open if S is primarily your personality style. Be a little bit more conscious about change and make sure that you are balancing the needs of others with your own. S's can sometimes be a bit of a people pleaser, and we just need to make sure that we don't lose ourselves in trying to please others. So Shantara, since you talked about your thinking you might be an S, what do you think now that you know a little bit more about that?
I am an S. So, but I don't have an issue with change, like resisting change.
Okay.
I guess because throughout my life, I've always been through so many changes, but oh, so many things in here that you said. And so I think the piece when you talked about avoid confrontation, I think that's probably a little bit more of when the dominants come out.
Sure.
Because I don't really have an issue with avoiding confrontation, but I am that person who tries to mediate and motivate and all those things. So yeah,
Excellent.
getting all this information, I think I'm definitely an S.
Perfect, perfect. So let's see, Andrew, you say that C is your second highest after S. So Andrew, if you can let us know, tell us how the S characteristics resonate with you.
Hi, yes, Carla. I think the motivation especially is like incredibly helpful, like the motivation tips.
Mm-hmm.
Like sharing your progress with a mentor. And I definitely think the methodicalness of the S resonates with me, like basically, needing the information, needing the facts before moving forward is a tendency that I have. So yeah, I think that's a great idea, just like regular check-ins with a mentor or supervisor, just to kind of check your progress as you're going along. So I think it's great. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Let's see, what other S's? Is it Fabian? You say S and C. So tell us, do any of these or how many of these areas, if at all, resonate with you? Fabian, are you there? Oh, let's see. All right. Okay, so any other S's? Let's see, who else do we have on here as an S? Shannon, you say you're a combination of S and C. So how much of this resonates with you, Shannon?
A lot of it, especially, security and appreciation. It's like just staying stuck in one place for a period of time because it's at least a secure place.
Yes, yes, perfect. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. Okay. Desiree, you might want to see if you can help Janina if she's having some audio issues. Okay, so let's move on to our last one, which is C. So here, if you are a C, you have the ability to create order. So again, it's putting things in place in a logical order. So that's a strength, especially on a team, because while your D might say, okay, let's focus on your results, and your I is kind of all over the place, your C is going to bring all those into order and say, what do we do first and what's the next step? So we want to make sure that we are thinking about those. Some of the strengths of an S, analytical problem solver, creative, very quality focused. That on the downside, we are perfectionist, and that is not a good. That's not a good thing. Many people think that being a perfectionist is a strength. I'm here to tell you it is not. We have a tendency, and I'm saying we because I'm a high C, have a tendency to do analysis paralysis, right? We think things over and over and over before we make a decision. So some of the areas to stay focused is that we have to make sure that quality and accuracy are really, really key to whatever project that we're working on. So if there's data involved, if there are calculations involved, those are things that we want to make sure that we're representing accurately. We also need time to think and process. So when you have C's on your team, give them that moment to sort of walk away and debrief for themselves, because that's when they're going to come back and give you a much higher quality result. The ways to leverage their strengths is to allow them the creativity, listen to when they're starting to talk about the order of things, because that's what's going to help you move the team forward. And then blind spots for C's, focus on excellence, not on perfection. So a long time ago, a colleague of mine said, done, not perfect. And that's really has been my mantra, is that let me just get it done. So I encourage you other C's, just get it done, and you can always go back and tweak it. So you also want to set time limits on your analysis of things before you give yourself permission to make a decision. So how many C's do we have here? Let's see. We have Trisha, you say ISC, so you're a combination. So talk to us a little bit about what resonates with you from the C characteristics.
Well, I am learning to get things done without it having to be perfect. So that resonated with me. I think that you want just everything to just be perfect, right? And then you talked about that analysis paralysis. So then you end up like not probably following through, like you're just stuck. So I think it's good to get like a product out, maybe share ideas and get feedback, and then, you know, like accomplish what it is you're trying to accomplish. But as we were going through the DISC, you know, letters, I realized that I am not so much an S. I think I'm more an I and a C.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
I
love
resonated.
people and your task and logically oriented.
I think so, more so.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. So we really have, you know, we've talked about all of them. So now what happens if we put all of this together, right? So what does this look like if we're putting a team together? So to show this illustration, I put together a new initiative that we're going to work on. So we have a team of 4, and each of these people on the team represent each of the personality types. So we have Alex, Sam, Maya, and Kim. So when we look at the initial breakdown of this new initiative that this company is starting, and you see, first of all, Sam, our influencer, he's going to kick off the productivity. So this initial part is a brainstorming session before they go into the actual setting up of the project, right? So he's going to kick off the meeting. He's high energy, got lots of brainstorming power, and he's going to lead the organization or lead the team in a place that's going to generate some innovation and creativity. Alex, our D, is going to now take charge. So Sam has gotten the group up, they're geared up, they're ready to go. Alex is going to say, okay, let's make sure the results we want are the results that we want, and how do we get to that bottom line? So you can see that Alex is going to contribute to the discussion with ideas and alignment of whatever those goals are to meet the demand for the product on the end. You have your S, which is Maya. She's listening attentively. She's providing feedback. She's giving feasibility reports. She's making sure that each risk is carefully evaluated and making sure that the team is prepared for those risks. And then Kim is going to be your researcher. She's going to analyze the data, look at the consumer trends. She's going to give you insights on your competition. She's going to create that list of things that the whole team needs to think about. So we talked about leveraging strengths. So when we look at each one, so let's look at the strengths that they leverage. So the first one is Alex. So his key strengths in this example, decisive and assertiveness. He is a confident leader and he's focused on the results. And you can see that when he's talking about aligning the project with the market demands. The next is Sam. The strengths that he brings to the team are creativity. He's got lots of energy. He's creative, he's a motivator, and he is going to talk about how to build the best relationships. And in this, we're looking at the strengths of Maya. She's reliable, she's got attention to detail, she's thinking about the risks and the challenges that may impact the team, and she's also providing support. She's giving them something. She's kind of the person that says, wait a minute, did you think about this? And that's who you want on your team. And then finally, we look at Kim. She's the analytical thinker. She is precise. She is logical. She's going to make sure that everything that the team needs to make the best decision, they have all the data that's needed to do that. So when we talk about using each of these categories or each of these personality types, the best way in a team environment, this is an example of how you take a look at what they bring to the table and how to best leverage those strengths. So I'm going to ask you, what are your thoughts? Do you see how this could work for your team when you look at leveraging the strengths that they each bring to the table? Does this make sense to you? Any thoughts, any ideas, any questions? Nope. All right. Let's see. Do I have anyone? Nope. Okay. All right. Good. So
yeah, I think, Carla, I think
yes,
it's about balance, right?
Mhm.
And I think that what you're proposing is incredibly ideal. That is what to strive for. Thank you.
Absolutely. Of course. All right. So we talked about how it works as a team. Now, how do we communicate with people who are not like us? So if I'm an I, how do I communicate best with a D? If I'm a C, how do I communicate best with an I? So let's take a look at what some of those strategies can be. So when communicating with a D, and if you're a D, I want you to, give us some insight into this. So you want to be brief, direct, and to the point. You don't want to belabor points. Give them the bullet points. And then if they ask for more, and I think Megan, if she's still on here, she talked about that. If you want to ask, if they want more, they'll ask for more. Ask what, not how questions, because remember, Ds are very results driven. They don't really want to get into the minutia of how to do something. They just want to know what the outcome is and what the outcome is going to be. Focus on results. Definitely don't ramble, and make sure that whatever the problem is that you're discussing, what is the impact on the outcome or the results? So if you're a D, do these resonate with you? When someone is communicating with you, are these the things that you want them to focus on? It looks like S, yes, Shannon, S and C's do have some of the same characteristics, absolutely. So any Ds in the room, you want to let us know, do these resonate with you on how to best communicate with you? Yes, okay, Megan's got a thumbs up there. Okay, very good. So now, how do you communicate with an I? Don't do all the talking. So, you know, I's are communicating. I mean, they're relationship people. They are talking. So you can't come into a space and not give them space to be able to share their own ideas. So don't ignore their ideas, acknowledge them, let them know that even if their idea may not work, that they will be encouraged to continue bringing ideas to the table. You have to give them time to socialize. So one of the things I say to people, to leaders, when it's a meeting, you have your eyes come in a little bit earlier so that they're able to get all their social stuff out. And then when your Ds get there, they're ready to go straight into the meeting. So give them the ability to do that by telling them the meeting starts at 10. I encourage you to get there a few minutes before so that you can get everything set up and sort of get that out of your system. And then finally, when you're dealing with an I, give them short spurts of information versus long-winded conversations. So it's better to give them short spurts because that's what they're going to be able to focus on. So if you're an I and this resonates with you, then I would encourage you to let us know in the chat or give us a thumbs up, just to make sure that, you know, the folks that are around you understand the best way to communicate with you. Finally, we have an S, communicating with S. Definitely want to make sure that there is create a friendly tone. That, you know, tone is very important because it shows that you understand that they are people who are sensitive. You have to make sure that you're not overly aggressive. Confrontation is, again, not something that S's like. They can deal with it if they have to, especially if they're a high D, I think, as Shantara was saying. But make sure that you are considering what it is that they need. So define the goal, make sure that they see themselves in whatever the outcome is. And then finally, your C's. Provide all the details. So remember, C's are very analytical. They like to cross their T's and dot their I's. So be very, very specific in the details that you're giving them. Be very clear in the goals and the instructions that you're giving them so that they understand it and will have no questions. And then follow up with them to make sure that if they do have questions, that they're in a position to be able to ask you what that looks like. All right, so this is such a key part of what we do for clients. So when you take a look at this communication, if you are on the left, so say you're a D and you're communicating with an S, so my mouse is over here. So say you're a D and you're communicating with an S, these are the areas that you want to think about. So when you look at a communication approach, make sure you understand who the person is so that you can get the most of what you want out of that particular engagement, right? So you take a look over here on the left and you see what the characteristics are. And then this is the approach that you might want to consider. Now, I want to encourage you that this is not the only way to do it, but it is one way to do it. So I encourage you to understand what people are looking for. How we work with our clients is we create what's called a communication directory. So the communication directory, this is a sample of one, for the clients that we work with. Once they've taken the DISC assessment, they know who their team members, how they identify, then we put this together for them, and every single person on the team gets one because it's so much easier. So now if you're talking to Kimberly, the CEO, you see that she's an SC, and she needs, these are some of the best ways to communicate with her. And if you're pushy and overly aggressive, that's not going to go over well. Your chances of you getting what you need is not very likely. So we do this for our clients so that people can understand the best way to get the most effective communication for them. So do you think having this kind of communication directory would be helpful for your team? Just let us know in the chat or give me a thumbs up. That would be great. Would this be helpful for you? All right. So I'm asking you, unmute yourself if you can, and let me know, what is your biggest team challenge right now? What is your biggest challenge right now? And how can we fix it as it relates to communication with either your team or within your leadership? What's your biggest challenge? You guys have great teams.
I'll start. I think one of the biggest challenges now is, and I don't know if this is unique, but is sort of the instability of people coming in and out of the team. So, you know, someone comes in and you make an assessment and you think they have a particular behavioral style, but it's kind of hard to grasp that. But by the time you develop a pace, they're gone. They need to be replaced. And, you know, I think that one of the things that from what I'm seeing becomes challenging is sort of applying these principles to such a unstable work environment. And I don't know how everybody else feels, but one of my biggest issues is, and every time somebody comes into the team as a new person, it sort of ripples a little bit of a difference. So that's kind of what I'm sensing as a challenge.
Okay. So it's really interesting. And my question, Anna, would be to you is, you know, what level are people at on your team? Are they entry level? Are they a mid-level manager? Are they upper level management? Because generally we find that when people are in entry level or in just beginning that sort of middle management, that turnover is greater. And
Yeah.
if it's at a higher level, then I would say it might be an opportunity to look at some of your promotion practices,
Yeah.
look at
No,
some
no,
of
you're
your,
right. It is at a lower level. You're
yeah.
absolutely
So
right,
generally
Carla.
we find that those areas are where turnover is greater. And again, I would encourage you and others to, if this is your issue, to look at what your onboarding practices are and making sure that people know what their expectations are. And when I say onboarding, it's across the board, everything from wage all the way up to training and development, to make sure that they are a part of, that they see their value in the that they see their value within the wheels of the organization. Thank you, Anna, for sharing. Any other challenges? All right. Okay. So what is next for us? So one of the things.
Sorry,
Oh, I'm sorry, Megan, you raised your hand. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So some of my challenges, I would say, is, you know, like once you teach someone the standard, kind of seeing that happen. And I know at the end of the day, everybody has their way of doing things. That's why I always try to teach the standard and you kind of make it your own. So I think for me, being able to show an individual the standard of how we do things, as far as case management or client engagement and different things like that, and actually seeing it happen. And so when I do my supervisions, I'm able to say, okay, you got it. But when I don't see that, then it worries me in the sense of, okay, is there something that I'm missing where maybe it's not translating the same? Because of course nobody's going to do it how I do it.
Sure.
So I guess that has been my challenge. How do I teach and then see the result and they make it their own, but it's still of the standard or the culture that we have here in the department?
So I would say, you know, when it comes to delegation, and that's really what you're talking about, the key is setting up a format. So you're going to teach, so that's the first part. And then you're going to let them do it while you're watching. And then you're going to tweak a little bit of what it is that they're doing. Then you're going to let them do it where they're teaching it to someone else. So now you're seeing if they understand what the standards are and how those standards should be working. And then finally, and that might take a few times before it happens, right? Because we're talking about human behavior. And then finally, once you see that they have it, they're doing it in front of you, they're teaching others how to do it, or they're showing it to their colleagues or their team members. Then the final part is to let them do it and let them not only make it their own, but also let them make the mistakes that need to be made, as long as those mistakes aren't completely detrimental to your department or to your organization. But, you know, as leaders, sometimes the hardest thing that we can do is to watch our people fail. And we have to let them fail forward, right? We have to let them fail in a way where they're learning from that, the mistakes that have been made. So I would encourage you to just let them to teach. Then you let them show you what they've learned, how they're learning it. Give them that freedom to be creative within parameters, and then teach them how to use that knowledge for other team members while you're sort of looking with a hands-off approach. And that would be a way, because people learn best by doing, and that would be a way for you to begin helping them become more autonomous.
I love that. I'm gonna try that. Thank you.
I hope it helps. Any other challenges? Thank you both, Anna, you and Megan, for sharing. All right, so we have a QR code here. If you would like to have some discussion, and then Desiree is going to put it in the chat, a link if you're not able to scan the QR code to schedule an appointment with me, let's talk about how we can do some DISC assessments for your company.